The laughter was loud, cruel, sharp like broken glass under bare feet. Amara stood frozen in the center of the ballroom, her glass of champagne trembling slightly in her hand. She tried to smile, to pretend the whispers weren't about her dress, her background, or her being the nobody who had somehow snagged a billionaire fiancé, but the way they looked at her, with polished smiles hiding venom, she knew. Someone had set her up. Her dress was a soft rose gold, elegant and simple, but under the dazzling lights of the crystal chandeliers, it looked different, almost tacky. She hadn't noticed the slightly off stitch at the neckline earlier, but now, with the weight of 100 eyes on her, it felt like her skin was on fire. She had picked the gown herself, wanting to wear something that felt hers, not something curated by the stylists who always hovered around her fiancé's world. Her heels clicked as she turned to walk toward the side, but someone deliberately stepped in front of her. It was Lena Walsh, of course. A tall, icy blonde with lips curled in a permanent smirk. Lena was the daughter of a real estate mogul and one of the first women everyone had assumed Julian, Amara's fiancé, would marry. "Such a brave choice of dress," Lena said sweetly, loud enough for the group of socialites to hear. "It almost says, 'I stitched it myself at home.' Very rustic." A few giggles followed. Amara forced a smile. Her cheeks burned. She gripped the glass. "Tighter. At least I dress myself. Do you even know your size without a stylist whispering it in your ear?" She shot back, cool but calm. There was a pause, then a louder laugh, this time from someone behind her. Amara turned to see Nathan, Julian's so-called best friend. He was leaning against the bar, watching everything unfold like it was a show. "Careful, Lena," he said with a grin. "She's got claws now. Maybe the small-town girl finally grew teeth." Small-town girl, that was how they always said it, like it was an infection. No one cared that Amara ran a successful interior design business before she even met Julian. They didn't ask about her family, who had worked day and night to give her a life with choices. All they saw was the gap. The invisible line between us and her. Julian wasn't at the party yet, and they knew it. They had planned this. A slow panic started bubbling in her stomach. Maybe she had walked into a trap. Maybe this was all arranged to embarrass her in front of society's elite before the engagement went public next week. Her phone buzzed in her clutch, a message from Julian. "Running 30 minutes late. Don't let them get to you. You're stronger than them." She wanted to believe that, but right now, standing in that shimmering room filled with designer gowns, champagne towers, and fake laughter, she didn't feel strong. She felt like prey. She walked away from the circle of venomous smiles and headed for the terrace. Cool air hit her face like a wave of relief. The lights of the city sparkled below like diamonds scattered across the dark velvet of night. She leaned on the balcony, her fingers white from gripping the rail. How did she end up here? Julian loved her. She knew that. But his world. This wasn't just luxury. It was power games disguised in etiquette. Every word was loaded, every smile a threat, and somehow she was at the center of it now. Behind her, the door creaked open. She didn't turn, but the voice that followed sent a chill through her bones. "You really think someone like you can survive?" "Here?" It was Nathan. He walked closer, holding a glass of whiskey, no ice. He always drank it that way, cold and bitter, just like his intentions. "You know what your biggest mistake is?" he said, stepping next to her. "You think love is enough. But Julian is complicated. People like us, this world, we don't marry for love. We marry for alignment." "You mean money," she said, still not looking at him. "I mean legacy," he corrected. "And you, no offense, don't fit." Amara finally turned, meeting his eyes. "You don't get to decide who fits, and Julian already proposed." Nathan's smirk didn't fade. "He did, but proposals can be broken. especially when certain truths come to light. Her heartbeat thudded. What are you talking about? He took a slow sip. There are things Julian doesn't know, things about your past, your family, your real name. Amara went still. How did he? I did my homework, Nathan whispered, stepping back. Let's just say your clean image has a few smudges. If I were you, I'd end this engagement before it explodes in your face. And just like that, he walked away, leaving her in silence. Amara sat on the edge of the balcony bench, her heart racing. She had nothing to hide. Did she? She had changed her name legally 5 years ago after her father was arrested for fraud, a crime he was later proven innocent of. But by then, the damage was done. Her family had lived in shadows for years. That wasn't her fault, but Nathan's. Tyne didn't care about justice, they cared about image. She knew Julian wouldn't care. He'd always been different, kind, grounded, even with his empire. But what if Nathan planted doubts? What if others got to Julian before she could explain? She returned to the ballroom 15 minutes later, head held high. They were still whispering, still smirking. Then suddenly, gasps. The doors at the back opened. A hush fell over the crowd. Julian had arrived, and not alone. He was flanked by 2 lawyers, a cameraman, and his PR director. Amara blinked. What was going on? Julian walked straight to her, kissed her cheek, and turned to face the crowd. I have an announcement, he said, voice calm but commanding. Lena's smirk faded. Nathan stiffened. Julian continued. Tonight was meant to be a quiet gathering, but since there are rumors flying around, and some very desperate people trying to sabotage my fiancé, I've decided to make things clear. He held up a folder. In this envelope are documents that legally assign 30% of my company shares to Amara, effective immediately. There was a gasp. Amara's knees almost buckled. Julian wasn't finished. And before anyone asks, yes, I know everything, her past, her strength, her family's struggle. I love her not in spite of it, but because of it. That's what makes her extraordinary. He looked at Nathan. And if anyone thinks they can dig up dirt to threaten her, think again. She's not alone, and I'm not the man you want to cross. The room was dead silent. Lena's glass slipped from her fingers and shattered on the floor. Nathan walked out, jaw tight, humiliated. And Amara, she finally smiled. Not because she needed Julian to rescue her, but because someone finally had stood beside her in the storm. And that changed everything. The party ended in whispers and shaken egos. Julian's declaration had silenced the room, but Amara knew better than to think it was over. Powerful people didn't like to be humiliated, especially not in public. And Nathan, he didn't walk away defeated. He walked away plotting. The morning after Amara woke in Julian's penthouse apartment, sunlight streaming in through the floor-to-ceiling windows. But peace didn't last. She found Julian in the kitchen, phone to his, ear expression hard. He was pacing back and forth like a general before battle. Delete everything off the server, he said sharply, and have my security double-check access logs. I want to know who tried to break into my system last night. Amara's heart tightened. What's happening? Julian turned, startled to see her. He quickly ended the call. I didn't want to tell you until I confirmed it, but someone tried hacking into my company files last night. After the party. She blinked. Was it Nathan? I don't have proof yet, but I'd bet everything on it. Amara sank into a chair. Why would he go this far? Julian leaned on the counter, hands clenched. Because he's been trying to push me out of my own company for years. He hides it well, but he's dangerous, and now that you're in the picture, with shares and power, it threatens everything he wants. But we're not even married yet, she said quietly. That's why he's acting now. He's trying to stop it before it's official. There was a silence. Then Julian said, He's not just after me. He's coming for you, Amara. The Far later that day, Amara received a package at the design studio she ran. No return label, just her name typed in bold capital letters. Inside, a USB stick. She hesitated, then plugged it into her office laptop. There were only 2 files. One was a photo of her younger brother Malik, and the other, a court transcript. Her chest tightened as she clicked. The document was from 5 years ago. Malik had been arrested for possession of stolen goods. Charges later dropped due to lack of evidence. It had been a low point for her family. Right after her father's fraud case had blown up in the media, she had worked so hard to rebuild their lives after that, and now someone had dug it up. She pulled out the USB, hands shaking. This wasn't just intimidation, it was a threat. Julian's past uncovered. That evening, Julian returned from a board meeting, eyes stormy. "They've gone further," he said. "A blog post just went live questioning our relationship. It claims you're using me for money, that your family's criminal background proves it." Her mouth went dry. "And worse," Julian added, sliding his phone across the table. "They dragged in my past, too." Amara stared at the screen. It was a photo of Julian years ago with his ex-fiancée, Claire. The article claimed he left Claire after she had a miscarriage, hinting that Julian was cold, manipulative, and untrustworthy in love. Julian looked away. "That part is partially true." Amara said nothing. He sat down slowly. "Claire did have a miscarriage. It destroyed both of us, but I didn't leave her heartlessly. She wanted space. She left me. Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I wanted to leave that grief in the past. But I should have told you. I just didn't want it to taint what we have." Amara stared at him, not because she doubted him, but because she realized what Nathan was doing. He was turning everything into poison: old pain, buried shame, family scars. Nathan was trying to rip them open again, and it was working. The confrontation, Amara knew it. It was time to confront the source. She called Lena. "I need to talk to Nathan, alone." There was a pause, then Lena said, "He'll meet you. Tomorrow, 8 p.m. The private club on 9th Street. Julian didn't want her to go, but Amara was done hiding. The street. The club. The club was quiet, filled with dark leather couches, whiskey shelves, and secrets whispered under low lights. Nathan was already there, smirking, when she walked. "In no bodyguards?" he asked, sipping his drink. "Impressive. I thought Julian kept you in a golden cage." She sat opposite him, calm. "Cut the games. You sent me the USB. He didn't deny it. I just thought Julian should know who he's marrying. I mean, debt, criminal history, broken family. You're practically a reality show." She kept her voice level. "You're afraid. You see a woman with nothing become something, and you can't stand it." "I'm protecting what belongs to me," he snapped. She narrowed her eyes. "Julian doesn't belong to you, and neither does his company." Nathan leaned in, voice cold. "You think this is about love? You're a placeholder. He'll move on. They always do." She smiled. "You're wrong, and you've already lost. He—" leaned back, scowling. "You don't know it yet," she continued, "but you just helped us." Nathan frowned. "I know what you've done. The hacking, the false articles, the manipulation. You're being watched now, carefully. Every file, every move." She stood, eyes burning. "You came for me, but you made one mistake. You underestimated what I can survive." Then she walked away, leaving him in silence. The twist. The next morning, Julian got a call from his lawyer. "You need to see this," the man said urgently. There had been a breach, but not into Julian's company, into Nathan's. A whistleblower from Nathan's team had come forward, revealing internal documents showing he had been embezzling company funds for 3 years. Millions were missing, moved quietly through shell accounts, and the timing? Perfect. The board met the next day. Nathan's empire began to crumble. The meeting, Julian stood before the board, calm and commanding. He laid out the evidence: false press campaigns, hacking attempts, embezzlement. Then, the final card. He handed the chairperson a signed whistleblower affidavit. and financial records. Nathan walked into the meeting midway, still acting bold, until he saw the files. His face turned pale. The board voted to remove him permanently. Amara watched from the corner. She didn't smile. She didn't gloat. She just stood tall, because dignity wasn't about revenge. It was about surviving the storm without letting it break you. Later that night, Julian and Amara returned home quietly. He poured her tea. "You saved me," he said softly. "No," she replied. "We saved each other." He looked at her. "I was going to wait until next week, but after everything, I don't want to wait." He pulled a small box from his pocket and opened it. Not a flashy diamond, but a ring made from rose quartz, the same color as the dress she wore at the party. "A stone that symbolizes healing," he said. Amara teared up. "Will you marry me? For real this time?" She nodded, whispering, "Yes. The past has a cruel way of resurfacing, just when you think you've buried it for good." Amara had finally found calm after the storm. Nathan was out of Julian's company. The media frenzy had faded, and their wedding was being planned in peace. But peace, as always, was temporary. It came knocking again, this time wearing the face of someone she never thought she'd see again. A knock at the studio door. It was a regular Tuesday. Amara was reviewing a new line of evening dresses at her design studio when her assistant entered, looking uncertain. "There's a journalist outside," she said. "She says it's personal. Her name is Melanie Hayes." Amara frowned. She didn't usually deal with reporters directly anymore, especially after what happened with Nathan. Still, curiosity tugged at her. "Let her in." Moments later, a tall woman with sharp eyes and a notebook stepped inside. Her smile was professional, but her eyes held something more, something like warning. "I know this is unannounced," Melanie began, "but I've come across something unusual, and I believe you deserve to see it before the rest of the world does." She placed a single photograph on the table. Amara's heart nearly stopped. It was Isaiah, standing outside a hotel in Milan, alive. The ghost from the past Isaiah wasn't just a person from her past. He was the beginning of her story. They had been engaged. Before Julian. Before everything. Isaiah had been her first love, the one who promised to build a life with her. But then, 5 years ago, he vanished. On their wedding day. No note, no explanation, just gone. Everyone believed he had run. Some whispered darker things. Amara had cried herself to sleep for weeks, then picked up the pieces and moved on. But now, he was back? Alive? She stared at the photo again. "The timestamp read last week. Where did you get this?" she asked quietly. Melanie paused. "There's more. He's involved in something big, something illegal, but someone's working hard to keep it quiet." Amara's hands trembled. "Why? Show me this? Because a source told me you had a connection to him, and if this story breaks, it might affect you, or your fiancé. Of course, the public engagement, the growing media attention. This wasn't just a photo, it was a loaded weapon." Julian's reaction. That night, Amara showed Julian the picture. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't flinch. He simply asked, "Do you want to find him?" She didn't know how to answer. "I don't want anything to do with him," she said finally, "but I need to know why he disappeared." Julian nodded. "Then we'll find him together." A hidden trail. Julian's security team got to work the next day. In just 48 hours, they discovered that Isaiah had been living under an alias for years. Daniel Ivers, multiple international accounts, a trail of corporate shell companies, most linked to art fraud and offshore accounts. More shockingly, one of the companies had briefly done business with Nathan's firm, which meant Isaiah and Nathan had known each other. Julian stared at the file. This wasn't random. This was coordinated. "Do you think Nathan helped Isaiah disappear?" Amara asked. Julian shook his head. "No, I think Isaiah helped Nathan hide money. They're part of something bigger. And now they're trying to bury it before someone talks. The secret meeting Amara arranged to meet Melanie Hayes again, this time privately, at a rooftop. Cafe at night. Melanie slid over a file with more photos, receipts, and a small black notebook. It's a ledger, she whispered. One of the shell companies was raided last month in Rome. Inside, they found this. Amara opened it. Several transactions were labeled A. Rivers. Her heart stopped. That was her, Amara Rivers. But I never... Someone used your name. For transfers totaling over $1.3 million. It looks like fraud, but your name is on the documents. It hit her like cold water. Someone was framing her, and now the pieces began to fall into place. The sudden appearance of Isaiah, the old court documents of her brother, the media campaign accusing her of being a gold digger. Someone wanted to destroy her credibility before she married Julian. Because once she was married, she'd gain voting power in his company, shares that once belonged to Julian's father, and that kind of influence made her a threat. A hidden camera. Julian didn't waste time. He traced the account numbers and found that one of the shell companies was still active, in Barcelona. Even better, someone had accessed it recently. He booked a flight for the next morning. I'm coming with you, Amara said. Julian shook his head. It's too dangerous. She stared him down. This is my past, my name, my life. I need to see it through. He relented. Barcelona. They arrived in Barcelona and met with a trusted contact, Luis, a former cybercrime investigator. Luis tracked the account's activity to a luxury apartment in the Gothic quarter. He set up surveillance, and within 24 hours, they had their moment. Footage came through. A man entered the apartment. Same frame, same gait. Isaiah. Julian's jaw tightened. That's him? Amara nodded slowly. He looked older, more tired. But it was him. Luis zoomed in on the laptop screen Isaiah was using, an email draft, and in the to field it read, to N. Rourke of veritasintel.com, Nathan Rourke. There was no denying it now. They were working together. The confrontation. Again. The next morning, Julian and Amara waited outside the building. When Isaiah stepped out, Amara stepped in front of him. He froze. Amara. His voice cracked like it hadn't been used in years. She stared at him, arms crossed. You disappeared. On our wedding day. No explanation. Nothing. And now you're using my name to commit fraud? Isaiah looked pale. It wasn't supposed to go this far. I was forced into this. By who? He hesitated. Nathan? Tell me the truth, Isaiah. He looked away. I owed money. Bad people. Nathan offered to help me disappear, said I could work for him, just until I paid it off. And the documents in my name? Nathan used your identity because it was clean, untouched, and because I still trusted you. I didn't think it would hurt you. She almost laughed. You didn't think this would hurt me? Julian stepped forward. You're going to testify. You're going to expose everything, or I'll make sure you rot in prison. Isaiah sighed. I'll do it, but I want protection. Julian nodded. You'll have it. The return back in London, the case exploded. With Isaiah's testimony, Nathan's name was dragged back into the media, this time not as a business mogul, but as a criminal mastermind behind a web of fraud and identity theft. More whistleblowers came forward. The case grew. But with it came backlash. People began questioning why Amara's name had been tied to the scandal at all. Was she a victim or an accomplice? Some tabloids smeared her again. Julian's company stock dipped. Sponsors threatened to pull out of the wedding's charity event. Suddenly, their dream life was cracking again. A tough decision one evening, Amara sat by the window of their penthouse, watching the city lights flicker. Julian came and sat beside her. I think I should step away from the spotlight, she whispered. At At least until this is over, he frowned. You've done nothing wrong, but the world doesn't care. Right now, I'm a liability. To you, to your company, and I won't let them use me against you. He took her hand. I don't care about what the world says, but if this is what you need, I'll support it. She looked at him with teary eyes. I want us to survive this, not just as a couple, but as people. Julian nodded. We will. Together. The storm was almost over. Or so Amara thought. Isaiah had confessed. Nathan was facing charges. The media was beginning to shift focus again, to politics, to celebrities, to anything but her. Amara had taken a step back from public life, leaving Julian to handle business alone, while she planned their private wedding in the countryside. But just when peace felt near, the final betrayal struck. The envelope without a sender, it arrived on a Wednesday, a white envelope unmarked, slipped under the door of Amara's design studio. Inside, a printed letter and a single photograph. She sat down and unfolded it slowly. The first line hit like a thunderclap. The man beside you is lying. She blinked and kept reading. There's more to Nathan's plan than you know. Isaiah wasn't the only one feeding him information. Look closer, not at your enemies, but your friends. He only pretended to protect you. Look behind the curtain. Below that, stapled to the corner, was a photograph, a recent one. It showed Julian in his office with Sophia, their heads close, her hand on his wrist, smiling. Amara's breath caught. Sophia, her best friend since college, the one who helped her survive her darkest days. Why would someone send this? Was it a cruel hoax or something more? The other side of loyalty that night, Amara sat in bed, the photo on her lap. Julian came in, loosening his tie. You've been quiet, he said. She looked up. Her voice was steady. Why did you meet with Sophia in your office last week? Julian froze mid-step. She dropped by, said she wanted to check in on me. You'd stepped away. She was worried about the company, about us. Amara's eyes narrowed. Worried? She said the media pressure might get to you, that maybe postponing the wedding would be wise. Amara's heart twisted. That's not her decision to make. Julian sat beside her. Amara, she's loyal to you. She always has been. She showed him the photo. His face darkened. Someone's trying to turn you against everyone. She nodded slowly, but the seed of doubt had been planted, and it was growing fast. The security footage. The next day, Amara did something she never thought she'd do. She asked Julian's tech team to pull building security footage, specifically from the day Sophia had visited. She told herself it was for closure. But deep down, she was afraid of what she might see. The footage came back that evening. Sophia arrived at 2:17 p.m. She was buzzed in by Julian's assistant, but instead of going straight to Julian's office, she made a stop at Amara's design floor. There, she entered a private meeting room. 5 minutes later, Nathan Rourke walked in. Amara nearly dropped the tablet. They stayed inside for 17 minutes. No cameras inside, no audio, just two enemies, alone. When the door opened again, Sophia was smiling. Nathan placed something in her bag, and then they parted like strangers. Amara's chest burned. Truth in pieces. She confronted Sophia that same night. I need you to tell me the truth. All of it. No lies. Sophia tried to act innocent. What are you talking about? Amara showed her the footage. The smile fell from Sophia's face. I can explain, she whispered. Then do it, Amara snapped. Sophia exhaled shakily. Yes, I met with Nathan, but I didn't betray you. He came to me, said if I didn't meet, he'd release photos of me, old ones, from a time I wasn't proud of. Amara frowned. What kind of photos? From when I was barely scraping by, working under a fake name, stuff I buried years ago. He threatened to expose everything unless I gave him access to your calendar, meetings, travel plans. Amara stared at her. So you did spy on me? Sophia's eyes filled with tears. I didn't want to, but I was scared. He said it was just to keep tabs, nothing dangerous. And Julian? Amara's voice cracked. Were you sent to him too? No, she cried. That was me. I thought maybe if I warned him we could keep you safe, but he never suspected a thing. Amara stood still. Why didn't you tell me the truth back? Then, Sophia looked away, because I knew you'd never forgive me. The collapse of trust. Amara didn't speak to Sophia after that. Not for days. Her betrayal, no matter how coerced, was too fresh, too raw. Worse, it made Amara doubt everyone. Again. Was Julian hiding anything else? Were there other people Nathan had turned? It became impossible to tell who was real, and then came the final blow, Isaiah's death. It happened without warning, 2 days before the trial. Isaiah had been staying in a secure government facility under protection, but late one night, his heart stopped. A sudden cardiac arrest, they said. No signs of struggle, no tampering, just dead. Amara didn't believe it. Neither did Julian, but without Isaiah's testimony, the entire case against Nathan weakened. Nathan's lawyers moved quickly. Evidence was deemed circumstantial. Charges were downgraded. He walked free. Nathan's message. A week later, Julian received a package. Inside was a sleek black USB, no label, no note, just a file named "The One You're Marrying." Julian opened it in front of Amara. The video began with blurry surveillance footage. Amara sitting with Isaiah at a rooftop cafe. Their heads leaned close. Her hand briefly touches his. Then, a voiceover, clearly edited. They say people never really change. You can take the girl out of the hustle, but can you take the hustle out of the girl? It was a hit piece, a setup, designed to imply Amara was working with Isaiah all along. Amara's chest tightened. He's framing me again. Julian looked at her. I don't care what the world sees. I trust you. But they both knew the video would spread. The only way out. That night, Amara made a decision. They couldn't outrun the shadows anymore. They had to drag them into the light. She called a press conference. The public reckoning, wearing no makeup, no jewelry, just a simple black dress. Amara stood before the cameras. This is not a statement crafted by lawyers, she began. This is from me. And then she told everything about her past with Isaiah, about Sophia's coerced betrayal, about Nathan's manipulation and fraud, and about the false narratives being spun around her name. People have tried to break me since the night I walked into that party in a thrift store dress, she said. But I survived. Not because I'm rich or powerful, but because I refused to become what they said I was. The room fell silent. I'm not asking for sympathy. I'm asking for truth. And if anyone else has been used by Nathan Rourke or others like him, now is the time to speak. The next day, 3 more whistleblowers came forward. The investigation reopened. The wedding, they kept it small, just 20 people. A hidden garden, no cameras. Julian stood waiting as Amara walked toward him, not in a designer gown, but one she'd stitched herself. No brand, no label, just hers. When they said their vows, it wasn't perfect, but it was real. And sometimes, that's better than perfect. Epilogue. Her turn to rise. Months passed. Nathan was finally convicted, this time not because of Isaiah, but because of Sophia. She'd recorded one of their meetings, and when she came forward voluntarily, she became the star witness. Amara forgave her in time, and her company, it grew, quietly, powerfully. No more scandals, no more games, just resilience, woven into every stitch of her life. And when she was asked years later about that night at the party, she smiled and said, "That night didn't break me. It introduced me to the life I was meant to build." The end.